begin with the wishes that we were talking
Yeah.
about, and then you can talk about how you will contextualize the power tools segment in automotive industry in India.
Okay. So Sharda, first of all, wish you and all the readers of Motor India a very happy Dashara and a Diwali and a great year coming forward. I think we are coming out. I'm hoping that we are coming out of a very tough period right now. And we again in Power Tools, when I look at this, at this stage, the two, I would say, very trends which are literally clashing with each other is the entire health and safety of people, but also that business has to go on during this period as well. And thankfully, we in India had a fairly, because we had kept on talking about Nike-shaped recovery, K-shaped, but frankly, we had a V-shaped recovery, and we tracked that fairly strongly in terms of the key macro parameters. So be it the larger automotive side of Bosch or as well as the power tools that we have. We have had, I would say from business perspective, except for the blip of wave 2 in this year, in Q2, literally from last year, second half, we have had a fairly good run so far. And I think automotive is one of our key segments that's there. Because again, if you look at automotive as a segment, given the emphasis on productivity, given the emphasis on their entire supply chain, we have the product portfolio which actually is pretty well suited to them. So be it things like exact tools, which is used for very, very tight specifications in some of the work like chassis or in engines, to the entire cordless range, which we are actually working very closely with some of the key automotive players to actually replace their pneumatic tools which is there. Because we feel that as the lines keeps on changing and you want fresh capex, investing behind a pneumatic line may or may not make that kind of business sense. And the great thing, and which is happening across power tools, not only in India, as a trend that you see that earlier the corded tools, which is you typically plug in and play, are more and more getting replaced by what we call as cordless tools. Again, automotive as a sector has taken quite a bit of substantial lead in this. And only today morning I was actually talking to the head of business who actually deals with our automotive counterparts and customers, and he was actually saying that they are fairly well receptive to this. One blip which you know of far more perhaps even than me is the entire blip that the automotive sector is going through because of the chip shortages. Somewhere it has also impacted us in power tools because we do use those kind of chips also in our cordless products. So to that extent, yes, but overall I would say this sector again has very, very high potential in India, and again we as one of the suppliers to them hope to gain from that momentum as well.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. So what does Bosch Power Tools existing portfolio look like, and if you could also touch upon the major milestones you have achieved since coming into India in 1997.
Yeah, so if you see the portfolio itself, and again when you say power tools, at the end of the day what you have to realize that these are applications where people require a tool on. So, and those tools existed much before even power tools was invented. So a wrench, a screwdriver, I mean these are very, very common. What has happened, and that has happened I would say where Bosch has been instrumental in building that market, is with power tools coming in, there are two things which has become fairly dominant I would say. First is the sheer convenience to a user, the physical effort that goes in. The second, which then translated into what I call as productivity gains. Because when you look at today's supply chain, you look at factories of today, I mean that's one thing which is very, very clear, highly automated, very, very high in terms of productivity that people look at. And both of these things is something that we actually managed to do. I hear war stories of people traveling 10-12 kilometers with some of our tools. Demolition hammer is a very key segment for us in power tools. People just to give a demo to a contractor who is perhaps demolishing a house and then selling them. So from that period to now, where the use of power tool is fairly what I call is widespread, is seen as one of those go-to items for any kind of professional users that exist. I think we have come a long way in the last, I would say, couple of decades, which is there. Bosch, I would say, has been instrumental in that journey. I would say some of the key points, besides number, which perhaps I'll broadly touch upon, where we take a lot of pride in. When the ASI, the Archaeological Survey of India, wanted to do, because the Taj was taking a slightly yellow sheet because of the entire sulfur from the factories in and around Agra, they actually used one of the Bosch tools. Even today in Parliament building and as well as the high-speed train, which is between Ahmedabad and Bombay, we are supplying a lot of tools. So I would say that for me, 2 decades in India, a very strong German legacy, but I would say a highly Indianized Bosch in India, I would say. We take a lot of pride is that we actually have helped construct the new India. That's how I always feel that. And on that journey, for example, we had our production unit in India because, if you look at power tools industry per se in India, not many of them actually have a production setup. We have now almost 2 decades where we have a production setup here. And we recently hit a great milestone of 10 million tool in production in India. And frankly, the great thing is, and that's something which is truly striking for me, that the first set of 5 million tools took almost 13 years. The next set actually came close to 4.5-5 years. So that's the kind of acceleration that we see. So if you see today, any application that you can think of either as a user or in any kind of industrial usage, be it, removing something from a surface, a grinding, breaking something, again, demolitions, if you want to put a hole in the wall and just hang a painting, it's drilling. So we are there. And we are very, very clear that we would want to be a full service power tools manufacturer and not focus only in some niche which is there. And hence you will see power tools being found in, a Mahindras, a Tatas, a Marutis of the world. But also you go to a town, a small town, you'll find a Bosch power tool over there.
Okay, so you defined this, the ubiquitous nature of the tools from being a manual one to a powered, actually power-powered, the nature of it, very beautifully defined. But if you could also tell us about the major milestones you have touched, like you did tell us about the Taj one, but a couple of more examples in different industries would be great.
Actually, again, so when you look at milestones, you will have to look at 2 things, Sharda. You'll have to first talk about milestones which come during, business per se. Again, you'll have to just take a step back and then say, okay, where do we actually go to, or what is the user segment that we go to? Because if you see, we are almost 30% market share in power tools market. So on its own, that's a milestone that very few countries across the globe in Bosch power tools as a segment can actually boast of. If you look at what is that we have actually achieved when it comes to that, which are you name any kind of large constructions or manufacturing setup in India. Chances are that we have a relationship, we have a business contracting with them, and we supply to them. So be it L&T, Shapoorji's, Palonji's of the world, or the new age industries, a lot of stuff which is coming in solar, windmills, you name it, and we are actually supplying to them. So it's for me, it always is, because if I had to look at pure numbers, so yeah, it has been a very good journey of almost, as I said, close to 25 to 27 years now. And And I would say there are many more miles to go, is how I actually take it, Shraddha.
Sure. Okay. So I would like you to talk about innovation here now in the next answer, and um, and I want you to connect it with the new scenario in automotive industry nowadays, which is EV. I mean, does the landscape change with the EVs coming in? And innovation, by way of innovation, would these find a convergence somewhere, anywhere?
When you look at the innovation, when you talk about, uh, if you again, because you will have to then look at innovation from the larger perspective, not only in India, but what's happening in power tools globally. As I said, one of the key things which is happening is people want very, very clear convenience. They want convenience, and hence, if you go to US as a market, when you see the US power tools market, from what I understand, is close to 94% of the tools that they sell are cordless. They don't sell anything here. And hence the next set of innovation won't lie in the tool itself. You're getting me? The tool. The next set of innovations will lie in how much long will the battery last delivering a certain performance. You know, that area. How much long, or what is the kind of torque this kind of power can maximize, and hence what's the kind of internal, if I were to use very simply, some gears and those kind of mechanisms that actually people put in. Because at the end of the day, the end application remains the same. It's either cleaning, demolishing, fixing, those kind of things. That's not fundamentally changing, unless somebody comes in and that we can actually, you know, use 3D printer to construct a house in Bangalore. Then I would say, oh man, that's a problem now. So that's not happening, and hence a lot of innovation is happening on things which may not be very obvious to the user. Because when you use a smartphone, I remember the first smartphone I got, it had a RAM of 512 MB, and it used to freeze like crazy. I mean, seriously crazy. Now I have a phone which has a 8 MB RAM, you know, nothing. Now, is the physical form of the phone itself changed fundamentally? It hasn't, yeah. Only it has become slightly bigger, difficult to hold it in palm, but that's about it. But the delivery of the same phone, Sharda, you can understand, it has taken, I would say, exponential leaps. Now that's how I see cordless portion. But there are other innovations that we are actually launching, and Bosch has actually taken an innovation on that. That is called X-Lock. Now it's a Bosch patent. Now what it does is, if you see a typical grinding tool which is there, what happens is there is a tool, you use a grinding wheel, and that is used at a very high RPM to simply smoothen the surface and remove excess materials, right? Now, if you go to any user, what's his biggest pain point? Yeah, besides the physical labor of cleaning something which is always there, his biggest pain point is that the moment a wheel gets over, he has to use a spanner, open that up, put that in, and tightens it. Now, even to a lay user, I'm not talking about, you know, people who are more fussed on productivity per man hour, it's a fairly cumbersome task. But why it is still need to be done? Because obviously it has to be done because it's an application which has safety implications. If you don't do it well, the wheel may broke off, it may hurt people. Now the invention that I'm talking about, X-Lock, is simple. It's just you have to take that wheel, plug it in, click, that's it. And we actually did some trial work with users. What we realized that it's at least 20% increase in productivity within the same time frame that it actually delivers. And one thing which frankly we are very paranoid about, general Bosch as an organization and hence Power Tools also, is safety of users. So this is something that we expect to hit the market hopefully in the next month or so, I would believe. And for me, this is one innovation. Again, is that a rocket science? No, it's not a rocket science. But many small things came together, and we are very, very keen to actually seed that in the market. And just to put in perspective, because Bosch wants to actually make it really big, the X-Lock as a technology, it has actually given out that technology to all the key competitors. So tomorrow, actually it's not that only Bosch will have X-Lock tools and accessories. Tomorrow, if you look at any other competition also, they can make that product. So for me, that's true innovation because it takes care of the user, you know, I would say safety as a table stake, but also helps them deliver better in their job. And we want to make it really widespread. We don't want to hoard that patent to say, no, it will be only Bosch. Everybody can make it. You know, even before COVID, I'll take a pit stop somewhere. Pit stop, not in India. Yeah. So if you see, one of the biggest trend that happened in India, when India actually took that leap from saying that we will have internet through hard lines coming to our homes, moving directly to handheld devices. Perhaps came in with Mr. Mukesh Ambani. I always admire him when that entire Jio came in. Because now when you see that, when you look back, it's very easy to, you know, have 6x6 on hindsight, and hence maybe perhaps I'm using that Sharda. That the first jump when you say pre-COVID, actually the pre-COVID, the inflection point actually happened when that data war actually happened and the data prices crashed. At the same time, you saw that there were entrants who came in with smartphones which were extremely affordable compared to some of the phones that we used to have. Now, a combination of these two things actually unlocked a lot of value which was latent across many sectors. So for example, why today even some of the larger automotives and premium automotive players can have that confidence that they can sell a car on e-com as a platform, perhaps has also a part of that seed lies over there. When data crash, smartphone become the ubiquitous device which is there, because then it simply bypassed one more thing. I don't know whether to what extent it's there, the entire you know, desktop to laptop to maybe an iPad kind of thing, it perhaps bypassed that as well. Now, why I'm saying that in Power Tool, in the context of Power Tools, it was huge. Simply because now with a smartphone, you can simply do any kind of search. You know, today, if you go, a user can search how to use a grinder, how to use a drill, how to use a hammer, you know, all that is available. Because that cheaper data cost also meant that people had access to, at that stage, maybe 5 years back, relatively lower OTT platforms, but YouTube was very much there, Google was there, Amazon was there, they could do this. What it then further accelerated this thing, which by the time COVID came was reasonably well in play, was the influence of local languages. You know, so for example, now today you have Amazon in 6 languages. You can go to, you know, YouTube and you can have any languages video that comes in, be it Telugu, Kannada, anything that's there. Now, what I say is, look, because when you see that how a user got impacted pre and a in terms of trends, including our users, you still have to see the scan the larger ecosystems or the environment that they are in. Now, what we had started noticing even before COVID, that a lot of our search is actually happening online. Facebook is becoming a medium where even a carpenter comes in and participates in our contest. You know, so that was something which was happening. COVID simply, what I call as, you know, what would I say? It fueled that rocket. It jump started that entire thing. So the seeds were there, the right building blocks were there. At the moment COVID happened, all of these things became that much more in the spotlight. You know, because you can't go to talk to a dealer and get some guidance. What do? You search on the net. You have a smartphone, you search on the net. And that's something, if you ask me, the user behavior where they're okay with actually trying to search for a content for which earlier that they used to rely typically on a person, on a face, is a big trend. Because then what it does is it allows a company and a brand like us to actually communicate directly with the user. And so we still have our dealers that we want to do, but it also gives us a direct connect with the user. It also throws us challenges because whatever said and we are a very English speaking nation. And again, when you go to a corporate, very English speaking, right? We don't think languages. We don't think कि you know, somebody in Bengal, उसको समझ में आएगी कि नहीं आएगी. Somebody in Delhi, he will not understand English. Now that's a challenge because now we have to ensure that all of these touch points, the digital touch points that we talk about, are also available in languages, which has its own set of challenges, which is there. Then the entire thing, the other piece which happened, and maybe it started with grocery during lockdowns, people got comfortable with buying online, even things which are smaller. And maybe one of the offshoots of that entire demonetization that had happened, that people had also started migrating to digital currency. And again, when I say it's all the things coming together at that point of time, so now what do you see as larger trends? People want convenience, people want information at their fingertips. People are also not very patient, they don't want to wait for things to come in. So for example, earlier, let's assume a user will wait for, saying Bosch products, let's assume if it's not in supply with dealer, they are waiting for people to come in. Now they will not, they will simply search on web. If it's not, they'll go and buy something else. Because the level of patience that all of us have, and including our users, have come down. They're used to that 1 day, 2 day servicing which is there. And hence again it's a challenge, because we have to up our game. If we have to meet those user expectations, we have to up our game. So I think the user has changed, and changed in many ways which are quite fundamental. And then it's upon us that we recognize it, and not simply keep it saying I will now advertise not in, in some of the point of sales, we also advertise. We have to look at our entire value chain. How do you service that user? How do you supply our stocks to the users? And I think it's the right thing, because then it keeps us on our toes. That's how I see it.
Okay. So currently also you see the trend becoming.
Yes, it is, because one of the things that we have seen, and we keep a track of it, that what's happening on our user who comes in our website, Power Tools website, how many of our users engage with Facebook, how many users actually come and buy us, because buy us is the ultimate culmination. So if I had to then even remove the buying, bar charts which are like all time, suddenly you'll see this kind of bar and you'll see this kind of bar. What is this? This is, your Facebook Connect that has gone up like this. So I always say, now you have to up the bar. You have to, don't show me this bar. You only show me big bars. Because what we have seen is that has continued, even when nowadays, if you see, people are going out, the general economic activity is there, but it's phenomenal that our connect has not come down. If you again look at the buying behavior, even on tools, I would say that it's at a fairly high level, because Sharda, you put that very pertinent, because the point that comes in is that a bubble, or is that a sustained trend line? Is that a fad or a trend? My sense is, and my personal belief is, that it's definitely not a fad. My sense also is that the trend may not continue at the high trajectory and the angle it is right now, but will it sustain? That I am fairly confident that it will do. Nothing, because when I see people around me and I see that how they behave, how they engage with different things. So when somebody comes to my house, help me in terms of putting on the tube light, for example, we generally have a conversations and generally ask saying, kya karte hain, what do you do, how do you entertain yourself? So you'll typically see he will follow a Kannada newspaper online, he'll watch videos on YouTube. Do you buy stuff? Yes, and during big day I bought stuff over there. So when you see that happening at levels which are very, I would say at a level of pyramid, which is what we consider the middle of the pyramid, it gives me that belief that yes, it will continue. So, yeah.
Great. So we're on to the last question, and that is, what are your future growth plans?
Now this is a question that gets asked to me by my boss's boss, my team, and now Sharda, you. So yeah, it's a nice question. So yeah, okay. So again, look at because when you look at any kind of industry growth, I'm very sure that you will simply say why today SUV has become a trend. It's not because somebody wanted it to become a trend, it's because user liked it, and hence the user actually plays the role. So for me, it's also very simple. To answer that, I would actually say I'm very confident that we will have very aggressive growths, double-digit growths in the coming years, is simply because we see the user demand, at least the indicators that we have, remain at high and sustained high levels. and hence I'm very confident that we will be on a fairly decent growth trajectory. Now, why I say the way I say it? Because look, again, when I look back at my user, who are my users? Any construction happens. So I used to earlier crib a lot before I joined Bosch Power Tools. This road is blocked, what do I do? Now actually I'm very happy because I know my Bosch Power Tools will be going over there because something is being constructed. There's a metro rail construction which is happening, right? So again, when you read the paper and when you hear people around you, you are very clear that the kind of investment that both the government of India and now many of the private players have started doing in terms of capex, the capital expenditure that's going in. It's so, for example, when somebody's Reliance, Mr. Mukesh Ambani says that he wants to spend some 80k crores and to have a alternate energy plants which is there, for me, yeah, that's something great because then my power tools go over there. So it's as simple as that. So the moment you see this, you correlate over there. The second thing, which again is very powerful, because one segment of construction was very, very weak pre-COVID, which was the house constructions. It was going through a reasonably bad patch, I would say, in most of the country. That has bounced back post-COVID, and at least the indicators say that it will continue, at least for the short term to medium term, which is there. If you look at manufacturing as setup, when you say automotive, but when you see also other core industry, that's putting, when you say steel going through the roof, when you see copper going through the roof, yeah, as a consumer I get impacted, but as a business person I'm very happy because again, yeah, it will mean capex into those industries. So that's why I'm saying at this stage, the question is something that's very, very pertinent. We expect to do at least a double-digit growth, a solid double-digit growth. With that, we want to also increase our shares in the market because we feel there is a headroom for that. Not going to be easy, I'm pretty sure, both of them, chasing that growth and chasing market shares. But I'm very confident of the team that I actually work with, extremely confident. And I'm very, very sure that we will be able to do that.